Portal 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. This has been true ever since I played it for the first time a few years ago, and it should be clear why. Between the lovable characters, hilarious dialogue, and well-developed puzzles, it has a little something for everyone. But despite how much I love Portal 2, I'd never played the game that came before it. I've owned it for a while, and I probably should have played it by now, but like a lot of games in my Steam library, and whatever the hell you classify Bad Rats as, it's gone completely untouched by me for quite a while. So a little while ago, I decided to change all that, and find out for myself if this game really deserved the amazing sequel it got. Let's see how this game holds up in 2020, by taking a look back at Portal. There's a lot of things to talk about with this game, but I think I want to start with the most important component of it all, and that is, of course, the portal gun. This is the coolest game mechanic of all time. That's an exaggeration, kind of, but it really is a novel concept that has so many neat applications across the entire game. I'm pretty sure every single person who's played either Portal or Portal 2 has had the exact same reaction to the first time it's used. Holy shit. It sounds like something that would just be a fun gimmick without much actual potential, but this game takes the concept and just goes ham with it. Playing around with momentum becomes second nature by the time you finish the first few chambers. The level designers behind this game were able to create some of the most inventive ideas for an already inventive mechanic. It would be enough to have this cool mechanic on its own, but new features are being introduced constantly, always making sure that there's just a little bit more to keep you on your toes. And trust me, that's not all I have to say about the level design. The puzzles here are absolutely genius. It encourages you to be inventive in a way that the majority of puzzle games today struggle to even scratch the surface of. Every level has a handful of eureka moments with the perfect amount of build-up and satisfaction to make the pace between realizations as smooth as butter. One of the best parts about that pacing is how quickly it's able to take you from utter confusion to breezing through a section. One of the last chambers in this game is a great example of this. When I was first dropped into this monstrosity, I had no idea where to go, no idea what the objective was, and the entire situation felt like a convoluted mess. But then, by doing the one thing that I was confident about doing, killing the turrets, that opened up my access to the level and it began to make more sense. Every level pushes you to take its challenges step by step, then revealing the bigger picture of the level, making it into a matter of skill. Now, there are other puzzle games that have accomplished this for most people. Slowly bringing more attention to smaller details isn't really anything new for a puzzle game, even back in 2007. But what you have to understand is, I am a dumbass. When it comes to complicated setups like these in puzzle games, I get stuck for like 10 minutes just trying to figure out what it's trying to get me to do before giving up and researching potential routes of completion. Looking up a walkthrough. But that never happens with Portal. If you give your thoughts time to process and seek to understand each level as a whole, there's nothing stopping you from making your way through this thing on your own, dumbass or not. Every level is an example of some of the most fine-tuned puzzle design in video game history, even when the game stops being a puzzle game. Speaking of which, while the first part of this game breaks the conventions of a typical puzzle game, the second part breaks the conventions of itself. As soon as I escaped from the incineration room, I was captivated beyond belief for the rest of the game. Any preconceptions of how this game could progress are thrown out of the window in a way I can still barely comprehend. It's honestly been a while since I felt the same way about a game, where I felt fully immersed in what was happening without spending much time in it at all. The game is even able to transfer its genius level design from before into this loose yet perfectly guided exploration of the facility. As the ending sequence progresses and you get closer and closer to GLaDOS, there's an incredibly subtle difficulty curve within the sequential rooms that continues to test your abilities and prod your imagination, whilst in the middle of one of the most intensely enduring sections of any game I've ever played. I am still baffled at how the developers were able to blend the elements of this game so seamlessly. The final fight is yet another instance of this, with the sadistically hilarious dialogue from GLaDOS following you, even with all of the chaos going on around you.
Why did your best friend the companion cube? Of course, he couldn't come because you murdered him.
The boss is fairly easy itself, but that lack of difficulty is not jarring in any way. Even with its relative simplicity, the pulsing and sharp music kicking into full gear carries you through without any hesitation and keeps the intensity at a high. I felt back on talking about the game's music, but it's an essential part of the second half's tone and energy. It's simultaneously danceable and ominous, and when combined with the gameplay, it blows other games that try to be grandiose in style completely out of the water. Not a single second is wasted in the concluding section of this already great game. And even with a massive shift in tone and style, Portal still manages to latch onto its sense of immersion and personality without ever letting go. So yeah, I like the game. In conclusion, Portal is an outstanding game. It still stands alone as one of the best, if not the best, puzzle game of all time, and it truly deserves that honor. As I can personally guarantee, all of its excellent traits still hold up today nearly 15 years later. It's aged nearly perfectly, and even though it's a very short title to complete, it is absolutely worth the venture. Plus you can get this thing at a Steam sale for like, 90 cents? There's really no reason not to try this game out. And hey, now that Valve is actually possibly making games again, there's more potential for another sequel than ever. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know how to end this video. I'll just play this banger.
But there's no sense crying over every mistake. You just keep